I've taken some time to complain about woke stuff that I don't care for in games. I've talked a little bit about political messages that make their way into the gaming space, or stuff like there's a non-binary character that got added into ESO. I really didn't care for that. I don't like political messaging of that nature to be in the game. That's just my opinion. I know some people like that, some people don't. But my feeling was it was obnoxious the way it was rolled out. There's a few other things about ESO that I really don't like. I don't like the AI chat moderation, because at least word on the street is that it seems like everybody's got to watch what they say so much that nobody even really wants to use the chat in the game anymore, because they just don't know. Is an AI going to auto ban them for something? And that's disheartening to hear something like that, because a big part of what makes an MMO special is people just bantering in the global chat. Like, all of that is special. So I was disappointed when I heard about that. And then, of course, there's a few other things about ESO that are kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, I've never liked the difficulty and the feel of level scaled combat. It just doesn't feel gratifying. It doesn't feel enjoyable the way combat works in ESO. I could list countless other games where combat feels better and more impactful, more rewarding. And that's huge in a game where quite often you spend a lot of your time hitting various monsters. But all of that being said, why am I still there? Well, people will say things like, well, the game is dead. It's going to go offline one of these days. The devs are driving it into the ground. And that might be true. But here's what's also true. What's also true is I installed ESO a while ago at a time in my life when I was looking for something refreshing, a different perspective, and it gave that to me. The world drew me in and felt interesting in a way that was different from other MMOs that I had played. And there were things I liked about it. The scale and number of cities that there are in the game that you can explore, the housing system, the lore of the world that exists, the fact you can collect so much physical memorabilia that's tied to the world of Tamriel. There's a lot to like about the world of Tamriel and the Elder Scrolls franchise. And that's not really what this video is about. What this video is about is the fact that for me, the Elder Scrolls felt special. And there's a few games, a few franchises, a few experiences in life that feel real and meaningful in a way that's unforgettable. And whenever you have those experiences, you really owe it to yourself to respect that and make the most out of it. Because the reality is, if we want to pick apart any game, any institution, anything out there, we can totally find fault. You're not going to find anything that's truly perfect. But what you can find is things that feel special. Things that ignite just a little bit of something I can only describe as a spark. It happens in relationships, in romance, maybe a job you love, maybe a game you love. Any part of life it can hit. It could be a movie that you enjoyed, or you're just there living your life, doing your thing, and it's like this light switch of inspiration just comes on, It gives you chills. It gives you a sense of joy, a sense of pride, a sense of being alive. In some small way, you feel like you're more than you were before, that you're richer because of that experience. And then as time goes on, you'll find all of the reasons why maybe it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. But the reality is that doesn't really matter. Because inspiration trumps perfection. And when you find things that you love, it's better to forgive the things that are wrong with them than it is to become bitter and frustrated and spend a whole lot of time raging about what isn't right. Because, you know, I could find any number of things that I think are really good, but they don't really speak to me on a spiritual level. And what I found is I'm better off just casually enjoying all of those experiences that feel like they bring some level of joy into my life. I think sometimes we overthink things, you know? We think to ourselves that we have to math it out, science it out, and figure out, you know, what is the best thing for us to be doing. You know, we could do that with time. We could say, well, what is the best way to spend the day? What is the best use of my time? You know, what am I doing all the things that I need to be doing? You know, have you ever gone on a vacation and you know you got a week off. You say, oh, I'm looking forward to this vacation. I'm so happy. I'm going to be able to go to a place I've been looking forward to going to for a long time. Then you get there and you say, oh my goodness, I got to have fun. I got to make sure that I use every single minute to the fullest. I've got to make sure that I am, totally making use of my time. I've got to make sure I'm having fun from beginning to end. Got to make sure that I don't waste any time. And then you don't actually have any fun because you're so busy trying to make sure that there's not a single moment when you aren't having fun. Well, then you don't enjoy the experience, because the actual joy is something which you realize in the spaces in between. It's something that you realize when you stop having expectations and you just accept something for what it is. You know, there's a video that I oddly will probably never forget about companions in Skyrim. And somebody was going through the list of all the different romanceable companions that exist in the game of Skyrim and which one you'd want to pick based on, you know, the personality of the companion and so forth and such. And the creator of this video said, you know, the reality is the best companion in Skyrim is Lydia. Well, Lydia is kind of the vanilla character that you meet right at the beginning of the game. She's your default companion. There's nothing special about Lydia, other than Lydia likes to go stand in the doorway, so that when you're trying to get through the door, she's going to be standing in the doorway, and then you're going to have to struggle to get around her. Like, that's about the only thing that's special about Lydia. And yet, the reality is Lydia is one of the most memorable companions in the game, simply because she's so recognizable. And if you were going to pick anybody out of the game to be your spouse, probably it would be her. That was what this video creator had said. Why? because she was faithful to you from the beginning of the game all the way through the game. She never did you wrong. You never have to prove yourself to her. You never had to do anything special to earn her favor. She was just there through thick and thin from beginning to end of your quest. And does that make her the perfect companion? Well, I don't know. Not necessarily. Depends on who you are. But certainly, a lot of people would just say, well, why would I pick the default one? Like, I want to see what other ones there are, right? But maybe the default one is the best, you know? Like, it's the things that are ordinary in an extraordinary way. Things that are basic and yet they're consistent. The things that you can count on. The things that give you a sense of an anchor in an otherwise uncertain world. Those are the things that you hang on to. And for me, there's a small handful of games that I would say strike that balance for me. I think Elder Scrolls has become one of those franchises. I would say probably Genshin Impact has been another one. I've just, I felt like that world seems special ever since the first time I played that game until today. Now, does it feel as special as it did 3 or 4 years ago when I first started playing? Well, no, because time has passed and I have changed and the game is not new anymore. I get that. But it was special and it still feels special. It's the kind of a thing that I would like to have collectibles for on my shelf at home, you know, like those are the kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it's special to me. So in the end, love cures all things. But look for things that give you a spark of joy, things that feel special and meaningful to you. And chances are, if something feels like you don't want to give it up because maybe it just seems kind of, it seems kind of meaningful to you for some sort of a reason you can't quite put your finger on. Well, maybe there are newer things, shinier things, better things that you could put your time and effort into. Maybe it is a dying game. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe the dev team is tone deaf. Maybe there's any number of reasons why, you could choose to throw stones. But sometimes you got to realize life is too short to spend it being frustrated at things that you love. So does that mean that you can't not like something? Does it mean that because you love something, you have to think everything about it is perfect? No, not at all. Can you take a break from something and still love it? Yeah, absolutely you can. Can you diversify your life and have different things that you spend time and energy focusing on to kind of make up for maybe some of the deficiencies that exist in things that you love? Well, yeah. Just like maybe you could have, you could have friends that you do things with who aren't your spouse because your spouse doesn't enjoy some of the things that you enjoy. So maybe there's things you do with your friends that you don't do with her, right? So yeah, you can diversify your life, but there's a point in life where you just gotta learn to accept things. Say, this is my country now, and I'm going to be faithful to it. I think the more time goes by in our life, the more maybe you have time, maybe you there's things you can do, right? Like, it's not like you're at a point where you're saying, well, let's just hang up the towel and be done, right? Like, there's time. But you all will also kind of start to feel like you want to find a place to call home. Like, I think about finding another relationship and, getting married again. And I think to myself, you know, whatever the next thing is, that's got to be the last deal, you know? Like, I ain't going to be going through this over and over again, you know? And it's, you know, there's that sense of totality, that sense of I'm playing for keeps, you know? That's kind of how I feel with Elder Scrolls, you know, like, yeah, maybe the game will infuriate me sometimes. Maybe there's something about it that I don't like. Maybe the devs will let me down. Maybe the game will go offline someday. But I've spent enough time in the game that it feels special to me. So I'm going to hang out and keep on logging in and occasionally decorate my house a little bit more or whatever it is I do, tinkering around in the game. Mostly just gathering logs and looking at the scenery while I listen to the soundtrack and chill. It's about all I do. And occasionally do a quest here and there. But over the last few years, I've played a lot of MMOs. And these days, I guess I don't really want to play some new MMO set in a world that I haven't ever heard of that was just created for the purpose of that new game coming out. You know, I'd rather spend my time letting my mind wander in a place like Tamriel, which has got 30 years of lore backing it up. You know, that's just kind of how it is. So look at life through the lens of what does your heart tell you? You know, that might seem kind of corny and silly, but I think it's true. It's true in relationships. It's true in your work. It's true in your relationships, and true in gaming. True in everything, really. If you just stop trying to analyze everything and instead just be still and reflect on what feels like it adds value to your life and what feels like it doesn't. And if it feels like it's kind of empty, then let it go. And if it feels like it's kind of fulfilling, well, keep it around. So just let it be that simple. And if you do that, I think you find a lot of things don't matter so much. I also think it's important to note that all of the things that happen in the circle of influencers is something to be aware of. Sometimes we create our own echo chambers of people who all have something to say, you know? And if all the content creators you follow start to say, well, this thing sucks or something, then you start to get on board with it. You start to see it that way, you know? It's kind of like a marriage where, you know, maybe one side of the family doesn't want the marriage to work out, so they always kind of throw stones. They always take jabs. They always have something to say, you know, and then after a while, the relationship doesn't work. Well, maybe it's partially because the people who could have been building it up were always there to, you know, try to shift public opinion against it. That's a hard wind to fight against, to always have to lean into, to try to, you know, get past the negative PR. So sometimes I think it's important just, you know, make up your mind for yourself. Don't always go to see what some content creator has to say or whatever, because sometimes they'll lead you wrong as well. And, you know, like I'll give you an example. You know, like I said earlier, I don't really like all the overtly woke stuff in games, right? I'm fine with inclusion, that's fine. But if it's super woke, then I don't care for that. And I think, you know, I can kind of tell the difference just by calling a spade a spade. But I was playing this game called Aura History Untold, and it's like a civilization style game. Well, anyways, you know, they have some unconventional leaders that you can pick. You know, like they have a historic first lady of Argentina who you can pick that is the leader of Argentina. So yeah, they have a woman leader that you can pick for for this country, because she was a relevant historical figure, but she wasn't actually a historical leader of the country. And there's a few other examples of that in the game where they, they put an effort into including women in the game who weren't actual world leaders. Well, that's fine. And maybe it's a little bit unconventional, but it doesn't really bother me. I thought it was fine. I thought the game was well implemented, and I liked it. Well, till I went online and I happened to see a video that somebody had made about how that game is woke because of these leaders that they'd included. And in this particular case, I wouldn't have noticed it. I wouldn't have had any issue. I wouldn't have even thought about having an issue, really, until I see the video of somebody else saying there's an issue, right? And, then I guess I would think about it at that point. The reality is I don't agree with that content creator, because I think the game is just fine. I mean, I think like every single game that's like Civilization, where you have world leaders, it's always like the same default dudes who get picked as the leader. Winston Churchill leads Great Britain, and Teddy Roosevelt leads the United States, and so on and so forth. So I thought it's fine with me. Pretty cool to see some new faces that you wouldn't have thought of show up as people you can pick as leaders in this Civ game. So I thought it was fine. But the point I'm getting at is just make up your own mind. Like you can tell if something is really getting under your skin too much, then by all means, don't give bad developers your money for something that you don't enjoy. But if you enjoy it, then it's fine. Like I saw another video of a guy, and he was playing Star Wars Outlaws, and I haven't played that game. I don't think I have any intention of playing that game. But anyways, he was playing it, and he said, I'm enjoying this game, but I feel like I shouldn't enjoy the game because everybody says it sucks. Well, okay. It's not a crime to enjoy the game. If you do genuinely enjoy it and you're having fun, cool beans, right? Like the fact that influencers tell you that you should think a certain thing doesn't mean that you should think that. Sometimes it's best for you to see for yourself, make up your own mind, and then you can entertain other people's opinions later on. Because if you always look to see what other people have to say about something, and then you build your opinion on that foundation, sometimes you wind up just echoing an extension of what other people have to say, and it's not actually an opinion that you have. So anyways, all of that to say, spend time doing things that you love, and when you find things that you love, remember to forgive the imperfections, because no matter where you go in life, no matter what it is, there's going to be things about what you love which are not perfect. And part of the beauty of the experience of loving things is learning along the way how to forgive them. And if you want one last final example, just look at how many people love old school RuneScape. Literally the ugliest game that you could possibly find to play graphically is one of the most beloved MMOs of all time. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that a lot of players have been captivated by it. A lot of players love it. And therefore, it may not be perfect, but it still can be beautiful. As always, life has loveliness to sell. So remember to buy it and never count the cost. As always, thanks so much for watching.